Hey yo, football fans, it's another great year. Fantasy football fiends, grab your beer. Giving you the best draft tips for your picks. Starts and sits to the waiver wire fix. From my drafts galore to stats that's hardcore. Triple F does it all, have y'all screaming more. So sit back, relax, let the experts prevail. JT Magnum, Siggy guns never fail. What is up, fantasy football fans? My name is JT Magnum. Welcome back to week 2 of our Startup and SitEm show here at Fantasy Football Fiends on Magnum Sports Network. Woo, what a good first week that was. I actually won both my fantasy football games. On top of that, I won in 2 out of 3 FanDuel leagues, not the whole league, but I placed and I got some money out of it. So it was pretty cool. But let's first get into everything that's going on. The ticker at the bottom there, at the bottom right there, that ticker represents what I feel is week 2 rankings. So I know you're going to see like certain players not in there, certain players not in certain spots, and you're going to be like, wait, why is that player ranked this and this player ranked that? It's because I do the rankings based on the matchups that are going on in the games for week 2, not based on just the rankings of fantasy football. You know what I mean? So that's how I rank the players. I rank them by the matchups. So that's why my rankings will be different than NFL.com's and places like that who are afraid to put their certain rankings a certain way. I do it my way. So it's all right. It springs up debate in the chat and in the comment section. So it's all good there. But I want to get into this show right away because I want to make sure that I have a lot to cover. I had a lot of new stuff going on for Fantasy Football Fiends for the Startup and SitEm show. The first one was basically the normal Startup and SitEm, but this one's going to be different because I got a lot of things going on. So let's just jump right into it. We're going to go into our rewind section now. This is the new for Fantasy Football Fiends. This is the rewind section. This is where I go over my picks from last week, or not all of them, but my best picks and my worst picks from last week. And first, we'll get right into it. These are the Got 'em Coach picks. These are the ones that they were my starts, my must starts last week, and I got these ones right. So I'm going to do my 5 best. And Carson Palmer with 25.68 points. And these stats are according to NFL.com, basic standard scoring. Just so if you guys wondering. Alex Smith was a must start for me last week and 23.22 points. He threw 3 touchdown passes. Chris Ivory was a must start for me last week. He got me 22 points. The Jets defense had 17 points. And then my other really it was more of a sleeper start, but it was a start nonetheless. Bishop Sankey with 20.60 points. And my best sits of the week, Joe Flacco with 0.68 points. 0.68 points. That was crazy. Frank Gore, I told you to sit him, and he got a 3.10 for points. Brandon Cooks, a lot of people fought me on that one. Didn't like that sit, but Brandon Cooks with only 5.30 points. Kyle Rudolph, I believe Michael Fabiano from NFL.com said to start him. Said it was a must start. And nope, I said sit him. Sure enough, 5.30 points. And Cam Newton with only 12.50 points. I know it seems like a lot, but that's not a lot for a quarterback. And to me, that was a good sit. So now this is the portion where you were basically like, JT Magnum, what were you thinking? Like, you started him? Are you serious? And number 1 was Alfred Blue. Yes, I started him. He only got 4.90 points. Bad start. Jarvis Landry, 6.70 points. The thing about Jarvis Landry, though, is if you were I'm in a league where actually you get points for punt return touchdowns for the guy along with the defense. So he actually scored me extra points, which was pretty cool. But most of you are in standard scoring, and it was a bust, basically. Vernon Davis, told you to start him. He sucked. 4.70 points, although he did lead the 49ers in catching. They did a lot of running on the night and not a lot of passing on the night. So Vernon Davis with 4.70 points and a drop. But Eli Manning as well. I thought he was going to carve up that Dallas secondary who was all banged up, but instead it was the opposite. Only 8.52 points for him. And Melvin Gordon, who I thought was going to run at least a little bit wild against Detroit. Nope. 4.70 points and Detroit's defensive line was a lot more stout than I thought they would be. Now, this is the part where you were like, wait, you wanted to sit this dude? Are you kidding me? Wait, sit who? And I said sit Jamal Charles. Now, first of all, let me explain something. When I say sit a stud player, I don't mean necessarily just sit him. I mean necessarily check who you got. Well, I do necessarily mean sit him, but check who you got else to start. And if you don't have anybody else, obviously, I never recommend sitting a stud. But I didn't think he would score a lot of points, and I was so close. But Jamal Charles ended up still scoring 16.3 hours. He got a touchdown reception, but he only had 57 yards rushing and like 46 yards passing or something. Excuse me, around those figures, but he didn't have that great of a game. He just got that touchdown, that one reception touchdown after the turnover, and I was like, I was so close to having it right. But anyways, DeAndre Hopkins, this was by far my worst sit of the week. He scored 23.80 points fantasy in according to NFL.com, and I was just like, whoa, I can't believe I told people to sit him, but hey, you can't get them all right? Alfred Morris with 12.10 points for the Redskins running against the Dolphins, who he just ran all over them. I couldn't believe the Dolphins weren't going to be a little bit more formidable on the line, but maybe they'll shore that up this week. And Martellus Bennett, who also got a garbage touchdown kind of late, and that sealed or else it would have been a bust for him, but instead, the opposite. Drew Brees with 16.50 points. He basically had no choice but to pass as Arizona shut their running game completely down. And 16.50 points is not Drew Brees like, but it's still good enough to, warrant not sitting him basically. So those were my bad picks of the week. Now we move to another new portion of the show. This one's called Adam or Bag'em, and I'd like to thank one of my fans of the show for actually telling me I should do this, and he told me basically, hey, won't you do this? I asked him what it was. He told me, and I said, all right, I'll see if I can plug it in. So this is the Adam or Bag'em. This is basically waiver wire picks that you may be on the fence about, and I'll let you know whether you should add them or you should just bag them. And the first one is Marcus Mariota, who threw 4 touchdown passes in his opening game as a quarterback for the Tennessee Titans. And a lot of people are going to, think, they want to pick him up because they think, oh man, he might be good all year. Nah, I don't say just yet. Not just yet. I would say bag him for now. Now, Tyrod Taylor, this is an interesting pick because he's leading the Buffalo Bills right now with that crazy defense that they got going. And I like Tyrod Taylor. He can pass, he can run, he's not making stupid decisions, and he has a believe it, it's a deceptive cannon of an arm. And you saw it on that deep pass to Percy Harvin that he completed. And I like him. I say if you have, a decent spot on your bench for another quarterback, you have a Joe Flacco on your bench, get rid of Flacco, pick up Tyrod Taylor. Chris Johnson, the running back for the Arizona Cardinals, will be starting probably the next couple weeks as Andre Ellington is out maybe 1 to 3 weeks. He will be the starter, not David Johnson. David Johnson is gonna take the backup role to him, although David Johnson will play a little bit. We'll get to him in a second, but Chris Johnson is gonna start, and I say add him. If you have a spot on your bench for him for a little while, or if you have Andre Ellington, you need to hurry up and grab your running back and need a running back on the fly to somebody to back him up. Chris Johnson, basically, then you can just drop him later and insert Andre Ellington back in, or keep him just in case Andre Ellington gets hurt again, because you never know. Like I said with Andre Ellington, I don't trust him. He's always injury prone. Dion Lewis, the running back for the New England Patriots. He catches a lot of balls. So if you're in a PPR league, I don't usually do PPR league. I do standard scoring stuff. But if you're in a PPR league, add him, because he does get a catches. He's gonna kind of fit that Shane Vereen mode. But this is standard scoring, so I say bag him. You never know what's gonna go on with New England running backs, and LeGarrette Blount's coming back, and LeGarrette Blount's gonna be the main man when he comes back. That's for sure. Now, Tavon Austin. This is another interesting pick because this was like a year or two ago, he was like the main man. Like everybody was thinking, oh, he's gonna go off. This guy's crazy. Now this year, they're finally learning how to use Tavon Austin. They got him running out of the running back position. They got him in the slot. They have him doing reverses. They have this guy all over the field trying to get him the ball, just get the ball in his hands for him to make some plays. He's so fast. So if you got spot on your bench for him, add him. Because this guy's getting a lot of touches. You want guys to get a lot of touches, and you saw what he can do when he gets the ball in his hand. He's electric. So now we move to the waiver wire portion of the show. These are your must-adds for the week, and if you have a chance to try to pick them up, or if nobody's picked them up yet, definitely try to grab these guys. Number 1, Stevie Johnson. Number 2, Austin Seferian-Jenkins. Number 3, Dante Moncrief. Number 4, James Jones. And number 5, Terrence Williams. And pick those guys up. I'm not going to get all in depth with them. Just you've seen the stats last week. Dante Moncrief, I'll tell you right now, T.Y. Hilton's going to probably be out for the next 1 to 3 weeks maybe. We're not sure. They're not sure he's day-to-day basically, but I think he's going to be out for at least a couple weeks or 3, given that he's got a knee problem. So look for Dante Moncrief to take over, and he does a very good job filling in for starters. He did that last year for Reggie Wayne. So starts. Now we move to the stardom portion of the show. This is the main part of the show, and let's get right into it. My 3 starts at quarterback this week are Matt Ryan, Sam Bradford, and Teddy Bridgewater, even though he had a bad game against San Francisco, which I called. But we're going to talk about Teddy Bridgewater. He had a rough game against the 49ers. I think that they didn't realize that defense would be blitzing a lot, and he got a little frustrated. But now he's facing the Detroit Lions, and Detroit Lions is another team that takes away the run. You saw it against San Diego, but they can be passed on. I think Teddy Bridgewater is going to have himself a nice day passing in this one, so that's why he's a must pick up. He can run the ball as well too, but Teddy Bridgewater definitely has a nice deep ball, and he's pretty accurate actually, despite the mistakes he had against San Fran, which was just an overthrown interception. But he was pressing. It was towards the end of the game, and he was trying to make a play happen. So that's what I think happened. But look for Teddy Bridgewater to actually light it up a little bit in Detroit, or versus Detroit. Now we go to the running backs. My 3 running back starts are Bishop Sankey at Cleveland, Tevin Coleman at the Giants, and Doug Martin at New Orleans. And let's talk about Bishop Sankey. He was my sleeper pick last week, and now he's facing a team that just cannot stop the run. I told you that last week with Chris Ivory going against them. They were last in the league, or last in the whole NFL last year in stopping the run, and it looks like they haven't shown it up just yet, and they can't stop it. They just, for some reason, just struggle against the run. In comes Tennessee with Marcus Mariota. And Cleveland's got a good pass defense, so what are they going to do? They're going to run. And who's their running back? Bishop Sankey. So start him. This guy's finally getting touches. And we go to the wide receivers. My 3 wide receivers, Sammy Watkins, Marlon Brown, and Brandon Cooks this week, after I had him as a sit last week. Sammy Watkins I want to talk about. 0 points last week. 0. I think he had 1 target last week. But this week comes the New England Patriots, who gave up a bunch of pass yards to Ben Roethlisberger and the Steelers. They had a bend but not break defense last week as they were passing the ball all over them, but they weren't, they basically didn't give up too many scores. They didn't give up too much. And that's what they did. But I don't think they're going to be able to do that against the Bills, because the Bills can run the ball well. The Bills have a bit of a balance with Tyrod Taylor running along with passing. And I think that they're going to finally try to get the ball to Sammy Watkins, given that the New England corners are just not proven yet. All they have is pretty much Malcolm Butler. Terrell Brown is okay, serviceable, but I don't like the New England corners. And I think they're going to get exposed this week with Sammy Watkins and Percy Harvin and Robert Woods. You're going to see a lot of that this weekend, especially with Tyrod Taylor, especially with New England trying to gear up for the run, knowing that they're going to run a lot. So I like him a lot. I love Sammy Watkins this week. The tight ends now. We have Tyler Eifert going against San Diego, Delaney Walker at Cleveland, and Ladarius Green at Cincinnati. And let me talk about Tyler Eifert. Tyler Eifert had his coming out party last week, basically against the Raiders. And I know it's against the Raiders and everything, but San Diego also struggled with Eric Ebron last week against Detroit. And I liked the fact that, they do have good cornerbacks in San Diego, but they don't have the linebackers. The linebackers are kind of short, especially Denzel Perryman, and I don't see them being able to stop the taller Eifert in this one, and look for him to actually go off, because Andy Dalton seems to like him a lot. They're throwing the ball to him a lot, so I like Tyler Eifert going against San Diego. Now, we move on to the defense part. And my 3 must-starts at defense are the Packers going against the Seahawks, believe it or not, Ravens at the Raiders, and the Texans at Carolina. And I'm going to talk about the Ravens going against the Raiders. Matt McGloin, that's right, McGloin, I believe that's how you say his name, but Matt McGloin is going to start against the Ravens. And you saw the Raiders offense was pretty much inept against the Bengals. The Ravens come to town. They don't even have that many corners, and they're all pretty much hurt at cornerback. But still, I think they can pretty much rough up the Raiders. They're going to force some turnovers, even minus Terrell Suggs. And I just think that the Ravens are going to come prepared, and they're going to come ready and with a nice game plan to stop McGloin. And I don't see the Raiders very much doing anything on offense. That's why Ravens are my must start this week on defense. Now we get into the SitEm portion of the show, and my 3 sits at quarterback this week are Alex Smith, who was my must-start last week against the Broncos, Cam Newton versus the Texans, and Matthew Stafford at Minnesota. I don't think the Lions are going to be able to throw much. You saw the 49ers run the ball. I believe the Lions are going to take that same approach, because Minnesota's defense against the pass is actually surprisingly good. They were all over the 49er receivers. Not that the 49er receivers are the greatest receivers, but they were all over them on the field last night against the 49ers, and I really like their defense a lot. So, or at least their pass defense a lot, but their run defense obviously needs some work, and I think the Lions are going to try to expose that. But I don't really like Matthew Stafford going against Minnesota this week in Minnesota. The running back starts this week are Dion Lewis taking on the Bills, Eddie Lacy versus the Seahawks, and Frank Gore versus the Jets. Now here's the one that, here's one of those big studs again, Eddie Lacy. I'm going to talk about him. You don't have to sit him, but he's probably not going to have the best of games going against the Seahawks team. He didn't have one last year in the championship game. He's never really done that well against the Seahawks. The Seahawks have a very, very good front, and they're very much built to stop the run. They did it last week also against the Rams. The Rams tried to run but didn't do so well. And look for Seattle to gear up on Eddie Lacy and sit back, defending Aaron Rodgers. And you look for the Green Bay Packers to attack him in the air too, especially with Seattle being minus Cam Chancellor as well. So I like Eddie Lacy. It's just that I don't like him this week against Seattle. Wide receiver sits this week. Jeremy Maclin going against that Denver defense. Woo, that Denver defense is sick. Allen Robinson versus the Miami Dolphins, and James Jones versus the Seahawks. James Jones had a good week last week, but look for him not to have one this week against the Legion of Boom. But Jeremy Maclin, I'll talk about. He didn't have a good game last week. 50 yards receiving and pretty much nothing through the air. I told you that he's going to have a hard time, adjusting to this, being with Alex Smith. Alex Smith loves tight ends, hence Travis Kelce having the good game last week. But this week he has to face Aqib Talib and Chris Harris on the other side for Denver. That secondary is ridiculous for the Broncos, and they defend well. Even the Broncos linebackers can defend as well. So look for Jeremy Maclin to have a rough game this week against that Broncos secondary. I don't think they're going to pass much at all, to be honest with you. They're going to have to run with Jamal Charles, screen game with Jamal Charles, everything Jamal Charles in this one, and Niles Davis. But tight end sits. Now we move to that part. Travis Kelce and against Denver. Jordan Cameron versus Jacksonville, Eric Ebron versus Minnesota, and Travis Kelce. I'll talk about Travis Kelce. My goodness, he had a great game last week, but like I said before, this Denver linebackers and this Denver secondary is really, really good, and I don't like his matchup this week against that defense, especially with their offensive line being a little bit having some problems. You saw the Texans last week sacking Alex Smith a few times, and this Denver defensive line with DeMarcus Ware and Von Miller coming at you, along with that secondary, I do not like Alex Smith. I don't like the Chiefs' offense in this one at all. I think Denver's going to shut him down pretty bad, and Travis Kelce's going to suffer this week, so I wouldn't start him if I were you. Defenses for the sits for the week: Cowboys at the Eagles, Vikings versus Detroit, and Patriots at the Bills. We'll talk about the Cowboys. Their defense right now is suspect. Eli Manning had a hard time with them last week. I'm not sure if it was just the Cowboys game plan or what it was, but Eli Manning is also not Sam Bradford. I think Sam Bradford's actually, I'm not going to say he's a better quarterback than Eli Manning, but he's in a better system. And I think that the Philadelphia Eagles are going to be gunning for the Cowboys, especially with DeMarco Murray. They're going to be running at him a lot. They're going to be doing a lot of stuff. I have a feeling they're going to be passing the ball all over them, especially being mad that they just pretty much lost that game to the Falcons after coming back and, basically taking the lead and then losing it at the end. I think the Eagles are going to be hungry in this one. They're going to take advantage of the Cowboys. So let's get into the sleepers portion of it. I got 5 sleepers for you. I have Tyrod Taylor versus the Patriots, Colin Kaepernick versus that suspect secondary in Pittsburgh, Marcus Wheaton versus the 49ers, and David Johnson at the Bears, and Dwayne Allen at the New York Jets. And I'll talk about David Johnson. This dude is fast. Whoa, did you see him catch? He caught the ball, pretty much put the game away against the Saints for the Cardinals, and he's going to be utilized a lot, especially with Chris Johnson now starting. They're going to have to spell him a lot, so that means David Johnson is going to get a lot more touches in this game, and the Bears defense is not the greatest of defenses. We all know they have a hard time stopping the run. They have a hard time stopping the pass as well, but they're going to have to do, especially stop the run with the Falcons or the Cardinals, who love to utilize the run to set up their play action game. And I think David Johnson is he's gonna go off in this one along with Chris Johnson. So look for him to surprise some people this week, especially getting a few more touches now that he's spelling Chris Johnson instead of Andre Ellington. So that does it for the show, guys. Thanks for watching. I want to let you guys know, thank you for everybody who's subscribing. If you guys don't know about my show, real quick, I'll explain a little bit of it. I pick people that normally people don't pick. I could talk about Aaron Rodgers. I could talk about, Andrew Luck every week. I could say, oh, you have to start them, but you already know that. You guys already know. You guys are not here to watch me tell you to start the normal people every game. You're here for me to talk about the other guys, the mid-tier to lower level guys that, you're iffy about, the guys that you're like, oh, I'm not sure. Do I start him this week or do I not play him? Or, what gamble do I take this week? That's what I'm here for. I'm here to steer you in that kind of direction. You don't always have to take my advice. I appreciate it if you do, and if you do it, it works out for you, then hey, I've helped you. But if it doesn't, hey, I apologize. I'm not 100% correct. I always tell people that there's no way I can be 100% correct every week. It's just impossible. I know it's fantasy football, but it's hard to do. And I can't predict the future. Not everybody can predict the future. Everybody likes to think they're a fantasy guru and this and that. I don't claim to be that. I'm just here to try to offer some of the best advice I can give from the insight that I see and the way I look at fantasy football and the way I look at, stats and the way, matchups and things like that. And I just do it based off that. I have my own way of doing things. I'm a little bit different from the other experts and how they do stuff. I'm a little bit more riskier because I'm not scared to do that. I haven't been scared to do it in my own leagues. That's what's made me win leagues before, and I'm just here to bestow some of that knowledge upon you. You don't have to take it, but you can think about it basically. So everybody that's subscribed, thanks for subbing. Stay tuned for a lot more fantasy football videos and things like that. Go to the website and check out the rankings, the starts and sits. I actually do it more in depth, the start them and sit them on there. That way I let you guys know what what I was thinking and why I put somebody where and what I do. And then I update the rankings as well after the Thursday games to let you guys see, for the Sunday and Monday games where the rankings are at and stuff like that. All right. So let me know in the comment section what you think. Let me know who you guys like to start and sit. Feel free to ask me questions in the comment section. If you need to ask questions in the on Twitter, it's at JT_Magnum816. And guys, I have a job. I worked Monday through Friday like everybody. I have a life as well. I have a wife, I have a child. She's in college and, I got things going on. I try to get to the comments and I try to get to my tweets as much as I can. But if I don't get to them, feel free to try to, tweet at me and just say, hey, I got a question for you. Feel free to ask the questions, but don't get mad at me if I can't get to it. I just can't. I as much as I would love to be on my phone 24/7 to try to get to my questions, or at my computer 24/7 to try to get to your questions, I can't. I've done a great job so far of trying to get to them, but I can't get to them all. Okay, so I do apologize if I miss some of your questions, but I will try my best to get them. Oh, and stay tuned for the live show. It's every Saturday, or every Friday or Saturday. I'll tell you guys during the week. You'll see it scheduled. I will schedule it on YouTube either Friday or Saturday. I'll schedule it Friday for Saturday, or I'll schedule it Thursday for Friday, if you understand. It's a live show for 1 hour where I answer all your fantasy football questions. You come into the YouTube chat. You type your question out in the chat. I see it, I read it out, and I tell you guys the answer or what I think. Or you can just chat football with me. You don't even have to chat fantasy football. If you just want to chat football, you can do that as well. So please watch the live show. I don't know if anybody else does that, but I try to do that for you guys so that I'm here for you all the time. Or at least give you a nice hour of my time to answer everything that you might want to ask, especially one day before the game or a couple days before game day. All right? Whew, I was trying to say all that in one breath. It's torture. All right, guys, thanks for watching, and good luck in your week 2 matchups, and take care. JT Magnum signing out. Peace, y'all.